All right, now we're looking at reflection. So we're continuing with this chapter. We first did shifting, which is moving things, translating things, in other words, moving things left or right. Things meaning points. So sometimes we have 4 points, sometimes we only have 1 point. But we're shifting it left, right, up, or down. We're also can be reflecting it. So you should notice this just from the previous videos, but that is outside of the x. And this one is on the inside. So if it's on the outside, that affects the y. So this right here is a y flip because it affects the y. On the inside, however, it's a x flip. I can't spell that very nicely because it's inside the brackets with the x. And so we're going to do a lot more things with stuff inside and things outside. But this is a flip. And so what we usually say is not a flip, but we say, because it's a y, we say it's a vertical reflection, and versus this one, which is a horizontal, because it's in with the x, horizontal reflection, which I can't spell either. Reflection. So when we have a drawing, that was terrible, that looks like this, and we want to do a horizontal reflection, that means it would be flipped horizontally, and it looks like that. But which axis does it flip around? So if this is the y-axis, so it's a horizontal flip. It flips to the left and right, that's horizontal. So it's a horizontal flip, but it's done so around the y-axis. So when we say it's a horizontal flip, we say it's a horizontal reflection or a horizontal flip around the y-axis. Sometimes you say about or in, or other words, about the about the y-axis or in the y-axis. Now compare that to if you did a vertical flip. If you flipped vertically, or reflected vertically, it would look like this. That is a vertical flip or a vertical reflection. Now which axis does it flip around? The x. So a vertical reflection or a vertical flip does so around the x-axis versus this one, which was the horizontal flip, which were flipped around the y-axis. So I'll give you a moment here if you want to just pause this, and you can draw something like this off to the side because I'm about to erase it. So that is what we say. Now I'm maybe a little more casual. I usually just say, is it a y flip or an x flip? But just remember that flipping y. Okay, sorry about that. This is actually going to be very abrupt. It's going to seem seamless on your end, but there's like a major stall on my end. So I literally have no idea what I just said. So I'm actually just going to move past that. And we're actually going to do a question. And like the previous questions, these ones have multiple points. It looks like 4. And this one over here also has 4. So we're going to have to write those ones down. So this point, we'll have to transform them, but first we're going to write the rule. So the rule for this one, and these are going to become very simple. But let's just write it down anyways to stick with the pattern. So we will take this and we will, it's on the outside. On the outside there is a vertical flip because the outside affects the y, and y is vertical. So we got a vertical flip. So to write a vertical flip, you take any y and make it negative. So if it was 5, it now flips to -5. If it was a -100, it flips to +100. And for the x, there's nothing affecting it, so we'll just leave it the same. So if I take my points, which are -4, 3, -2, 3, 2, -2, and 4, -3, those are the points that are down here. We can now transform them. And all that we're doing looks like is leaving the x alone and then making the y negative. So -4, these x's, -2, all just get left alone. So we'll leave them as they are, but these will have to be negated. So 3 becomes -3. 3 becomes -3. negative 2 becomes a positive 2, and negative 3 becomes a positive 3. So we just negated them. So anything a positive becomes negative, anything negative becomes a negative negative, which is a positive. And then we can graph it. So 1, 2, 3, negative 4, comma, negative 3, negative 2, comma, 1, 2, 3. Unless I wrote something down wrong. Oh yeah, this is a 2, comma, negative 3. So then I have to change this, and when I negate that negative 3, it becomes a positive 3. So I have to go negative 2, comma, 3. And then I've got 2, comma, 2, and then 4, comma, 3. So I get this. And it should look like this drawing right here has been now flipped up to there. It's a perfect vertical flip. And so we can write that too. It would be good to write it. This is a vertical flip, or a vertical reflection. And what did we flip around? Well, we flipped around this x-axis. When you look at it, it's been flipped around this x-axis. So we say vertical flip around or about the x-axis. Okay, so for the next one here, we will have a new rule. Nothing is happening to the inside. To the outside, so that means our y will just stay the same. And on the inside it says negative x, and so we're going to do exactly that. So we do the opposite for the insides, but when it's negating, I mean, this is technically a negative 1, and so the opposite, and it's being times, the opposite is dividing by negative 1, but if you divide by negative 1, it's still a negative. So when you do reflections, it just becomes negative x. Like it still is the opposite, but you don't actually see the difference. Because when you multiply or whether you divide, when you multiply by negative 1 or divide by negative 1, you still just get a negative x. So the inside says negative x, so we wrote that, and the outside was nothing. So then I got some points. Here we have, let's see, negative 6, comma, negative 2. And then we've got negative 4, comma, 1. And then we have 4, comma, negative 2, and 6, comma, 3. And we can transform those. And all we're doing is changing our x, but we're negating it. So negative negative 6 is positive. Negative negative 4 is positive. 4 that's negated is going to be negative 4. And 6 is going to become a negative 6. So we just switched the positives and negatives. And then on top of that, we have the y's, and the y's look like they are unchanged. There's nothing happening on the outside. So we'll leave those the same. And so our point here is 6, comma, negative 2, 4, comma, 1, negative 4 and negative 2, and negative 6 and positive 3. So I guess we get something that looks like this. And so you can see that this looks symmetrical now, this drawing. What was here is now been flipped over this way. And if you can't see it, that's okay, because sometimes it's hard to see these things. But it has been flipped. Like what was here now is over there on the right-hand side. And what was up here has now been moved to over here. So it's been a flip horizontally in the x direction. So that's what we have, a horizontal flip. In fact, I'm going to even write that. We're going to have a horizontal, because it's affecting the x. Horizontal flip or reflection around or about or in. So around the y-axis. Because you can see it's gone from here to here, and we have flipped it around this axis. So I'm going to zoom out here, and you can write any notes that you want to write down, and then the next video will deal with the last couple questions.